It was challenging as always, qualifying for me. I'd been nowhere all weekend. It's 13th, I think, in almost every session. So honestly, I feel grateful to have got to Q3 and P7. Not spectacular last lap, but improvements. Been making improvements all weekend. Needed a better lap at the end. But as I said, I'm grateful to just be there. There still plenty of time to come.
I was going to say, I mean, in the race, it seems to be better for you, the car. Are you hopeful that that's going to be the case again tomorrow and you can move forward, or?
Praying, more like. It's been trying to find the time and trying to bond with this car on a single lap is something that I'm finding very difficult at the moment. But we don't give up. When there's a will, there's a way. We keep pushing, keep trying. Got some amazing support, so just keep working hard.
Friday night in Jeddah, the entire paddock was talking in hushed voices. Lewis Hamilton, 7-time world champion, had finished 13th in free practice, more than a second behind Verstappen and almost 0.8 behind his teammate Charles Leclerc. He couldn't find his rhythm. There was no feeling in the tires. His statement after getting out of the car summed it all up. "I just want to get into the top 10. For any other driver, that would be a reasonable goal. For Hamilton, it was a confession. He was lost." Throughout Friday, the British driver tried radically different setups than Leclerc's. They weren't working. The SF-25 behaved unpredictably. The soft compounds, key in qualifying, weren't responding. The car seemed to refuse to cooperate. And yet, on Saturday night, Hamilton appeared on track with a different mindset. Qualifying was brutal. Verstappen was relentless with his pole position in 1 minute and 27.294 seconds. Oscar Piastri was 0.010 of a second behind. Leclerc took 4th, and Hamilton, 7th. For most drivers, P7 is an acceptable position. For Hamilton, in the context of Friday's disaster, it was an act of resistance, a direct response to those who had already written him off. The most interesting thing wasn't the position itself. It was the way he achieved it. Unlike other weekends where his progress from Friday to Saturday was non-existent or negative, here there was a step forward. The car was still not perfect. The tire window was still difficult to find. But there was adaptation. There was a change. And above all, there was attitude. Many didn't notice, but Hamilton completely changed his approach. He opted for a more aggressive rear axle setup, which allowed him to better warm up the tires on the outlap. He changed his braking sequence. He didn't seek to replicate Leclerc's style, but rather to find his own way of driving the SF-25 on the Jeddah circuit. And it worked. Enough to get the car into Q3. Enough to silence people. Not enough to fight for pole, but enough to regain control of his narrative. This 7th place, put into context, isn't just a result. It's a sign. After days of doubt, frustration, and headlines of defeat, Hamilton once again made it clear why he remains one of the best in the world. Even on dreary days. Even when the car isn't responding. The big question now is, will this be a momentary breakthrough, or the first real step in his definitive adaptation to Ferrari? Behind Hamilton's lackluster performance at the Saudi Arabian GP, there isn't just a question of personal adaptation. There's a deeper issue. A technical challenge with a name and surname. SF-25. Most fans see a Ferrari that looks competitive. A car with pace. A car that Leclerc can put on the front rows. But for Hamilton, the SF-25 is a wild animal. Untamed. Unstable. Difficult to read. And the real crux of the problem isn't the overall pace. It's how the car responds or doesn't respond to his driving style. The most critical point has been the engine braking system. It's a technical change that, from the outside, may seem minor, but it isn't. The Ferrari's energy recovery system, especially the regenerative braking, is much more aggressive than that of the Mercedes, which Hamilton had been accustomed to for over a decade. That technical detail changes everything. Hamilton, whose classic style was always based on braking very late and hard, now has to anticipate his actions. He can't rely on his instinctive reflexes. He has to reprogram years of muscle memory. This situation can't be solved with a simple aerodynamic adjustment or a setup modification. It's not about better calibrating a suspension or tinkering with the angle of the front wing. It's a structural change. He's an elite driver having to relearn how to brake, how to balance the car on corner entry, how to manage energy, and do it in the heat of competition. Ferrari knows this, and so does Hamilton. That's why the process is so painful, because it's not a natural transition. It's a forced transformation, and the SF-25 isn't exactly forgiving. Its operating window, although wider in Jeddah, is still narrow. It demands surgical precision. It penalizes any mistake. In addition to braking, the car has shown inconsistencies with the soft compounds, especially on days with unstable temperatures, like those experienced in Saudi Arabia. Hamilton has struggled to get the tires in the right working window. When the car can't properly warm up the compounds on the outlap, the entire qualifying session collapses. And that's exactly what happened in Bahrain and was almost repeated in Jeddah. In this scenario, the engineers tried to compensate with changes to the engine map configuration and adjustments to the brake distribution. But nothing was enough. The gap with Leclerc remained. Because the problem isn't just in the data. It's in the connection between the driver and the car. And that connection for now is broken. This act isn't about failures. It's about incompatibilities. About a car that, by design, is designed for a different driving philosophy. And about a champion who, to win again, has to go against his own instincts. The big question remains whether Hamilton will be able to adapt his talent to these new unwritten rules of the SF-25. Because one thing is clear, the car won't change for him. It's he who must change for the car. In Formula One, nothing is a coincidence. Every millisecond is the result of decisions made in factories, wind tunnels, and simulation centers. And in Saudi Arabia, Ferrari didn't arrive empty-handed. It featured a series of specific updates that, although subtle at first glance, were key to understanding the SF-25's partial improvement. The main focus was on the rear of the car. Ferrari introduced a new rear wing with a revised main profile, accompanied by a redesigned flap and an optimized version of the beam wing. Why these changes? Because the Jeddah Street circuit demands a unique combination: minimal downforce and maximum straight-line efficiency. A circuit that punishes drag and rewards top speed. The new beam wing had a thinner, flatter shape, designed to reduce drag without losing stability. In practical terms, this allowed the SF-25 to reach higher speeds on the straights without compromising traction in fast corners. This difference on a track like Jeddah could translate into several tenths of a second per lap. But the real trick was in the interaction between the upper flap and the rest of the wing. Ferrari introduced a subtle modification to the trailing edge of the elements. This modification reduced the length of the cord in the central area, which slightly decreased downforce. The goal? To allow the car to move with less resistance, without losing the necessary balance in long corners like turn 13 or the fast section of turns between turns 4 and 12. These modifications were not the same for both drivers. Ferrari tested different combinations with Hamilton and Leclerc during free practice. The team wanted to directly compare which of the configurations offered the best balance between top speed and stability. And this was where one of Hamilton's challenges arose. While Leclerc quickly adapted to the new package, Hamilton needed entire sessions to understand how the car reacted to each aerodynamic micro-adjustment. This technical analysis is not just a sample of the car's evolution. It is also a snapshot of how Ferrari is trying to expand the SF-25's operating window. The car, which on tracks like Suzuka showed extreme sensitivity to changes in surface or temperature, is beginning to show signs of stability. In Jeddah, thanks to the smooth track and the reduced downforce, the SF-25 showed greater linearity in its performance. The floor introduced weeks earlier in Bahrain also continues to bear fruit. Not only does it improve the efficiency of the airflow under the car, but it also allows for a more aggressive approach to the ride height settings. In Jeddah, this was key. Running the car as low as possible without sacrificing handling in the fast sections was one of the great technical achievements of the weekend. All this explains how, even though he wasn't comfortable, Hamilton managed to climb to 7th place. The car is starting to respond. Not completely. Not with the precision he demands. But the data is clear. The SF-25 has taken a step forward. The challenge now is to consolidate this improvement on circuits with different characteristics. Because what works in Jeddah won't necessarily work in Imola, Monaco, or Canada. What's clear is that in 2025, the battle won't just be fought on the track. It's also fought over the design of the wing, the shape of the beam wing, and how a driver like Hamilton adapts to each of these components. The standings are already written. Hamilton will start 7th in the Saudi Arabian GP. It's not a pole position, but in the current context, it represents a solid foundation to build on. Because this race, more than any other so far, will be a test of consistency, of strategy, and above all, of real-time adaptation. The Jeddah circuit is fast, technical, and treacherous. Despite being a street circuit, it offers several clear overtaking opportunities, mainly thanks to its 3 DRS zones. This means that starting position isn't everything. What really matters is race pace. And that's where Hamilton may have a card up his sleeve. Throughout his career, Hamilton has demonstrated a distinguishing quality: his ability to manage tires better than almost any other driver on the grid. That skill will be key in Jeddah. Although Ferrari has struggled to get the tires to their optimal temperature in qualifying, the race is a different story. With the car more fueled, the track temperature more stable, and consecutive laps to get into rhythm, the SF-25 tends to behave better. And that could directly benefit the Briton. From 7th position, Hamilton faces tough but vulnerable rivals: Piastri, Russell, Norris, and Leclerc. None of them are invulnerable in terms of race pace. And with a good start, a solid strategy, and a fair amount of patience, Hamilton can put himself in direct contention for the top 5. Even a podium finish isn't a utopia if a combination of factors are met: incidents ahead, good management of the medium tire, and a well-executed undercut or overcut strategy. Furthermore, there's another tactical detail to consider. Ferrari has yet to score a podium finish in the entire 2025 season. The pressure on the team is real, and that need for results could motivate a more aggressive strategy from the pits, especially if Leclerc and Hamilton manage to stay close to the leading group in the opening laps. It wouldn't be unreasonable to see Ferrari split strategies, covering different race scenarios to maximize their options. In that case, Hamilton could benefit from an early pit stop or managing a long stint if a safety car appears. Another factor that could work in his favor is McLaren's uncertain pace. Norris, although fast in qualifying, finished behind Hamilton due to an accident in Q3. That forces him to start from 10th place. If Norris struggles to make up positions in the opening laps, Hamilton will have room to focus on attacking from the front without worrying so much about defending. The key will be pace. If Hamilton manages to find a setup that allows him to progressively warm up the tires and keep them within his operating window, he could surprise more than a few. And it wouldn't be the first time that, from a distant position, he's finished on the podium thanks to his reading of the race. This race will be much more than a simple fight for points. It will be a golden opportunity for Hamilton to show that he understands the car, that he's reading the SF-25's evolution well, and that he can match Leclerc's level in race conditions. Because while it's true that Saturday has been his teammates' territory, Sundays remain the terrain where Hamilton historically builds his legends. Qualifying for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix wasn't a victory, nor was it a brilliant performance in absolute terms, but it was a statement of intent, a silent warning that Lewis Hamilton is still here. That, despite the difficulties, the discomfort with the SF-25, the constant comparisons with Leclerc, he is still capable of reinventing himself, adapting, and responding. It's easy to look at the result and say that 7th isn't enough, that it's not the level of a 7-time champion. But the context changes everything. Because reaching that 7th position after a Friday in which the car didn't respond, in which frustration mounted and adjustments didn't work, is much more than a recovery. It's a symbol of resilience, of evolution. This process isn't just about understanding a new car. It's about understanding a new era in the career of one of the greatest drivers of all time. A driver who has already won everything but who is now fighting not against others, but against the limits of what it means to start over. Hamilton's story at Ferrari is just beginning. And like every great narrative in Formula One, it is marked by tension, technical challenges, internal pressure, and the need to prove himself. To prove to the team that they chose the right driver. To prove to the paddock that he still has more to offer. And above all, to prove to himself that his talent doesn't depend on a single team, a single system, or a bygone era. What happens in the Saudi Arabia race could mark a turning point. If the car performs, if the strategy is right, if the pace appears, then that 7th place in the standings could be just the beginning of a new chapter. A chapter in which Hamilton arrives not as the favorite, but as the man rebuilding his legend, one corner at a time.